So let me now come to the present budget. What should we expect from the present budget? In a few hours, we'll all know it, but here are my thoughts on it. This is just before the elections, as I mentioned in the introduction. So, do I expect a populist budget? No, I don't. Why? Because given the type of government that I've seen in the last 4 years, these are pretty serious people and they have a long-term view of the country in their mind. I don't think, given the large mandate a single party has in the parliament, I don't think they are faring and therefore coming out with a populist budget. Secondly, since 14, the number of states that have come under their belt, it's very clear that they're very secure, safe and confident people. So I'm not expecting a populist budget. The third thing, I've heard the FM, I've heard the PM, they understand that people may be literate or illiterate, but everybody understands what is good and what is not good. So therefore, responsible behavior is what Indians want. They are not looking for any grace. They are looking for responsible behavior, and I think the government is going to come out with a realistic, not a populist, a realistic budget which has a long-term vision in their mind. So, should the government then stick to the gross fiscal deficit, which it has been very religiously sticking in the last 2-3 years? I would say not necessarily, need not. In advanced countries, they never bothered about their gross fiscal deficit when it came to employment generation and macro stability. All I'm trying to say is they need not go across the board. Doesn't mean they need to relax their gross fiscal deficit indicators substantially, but they can be accommodative. I would say they need not stick to as closely as they were attempting in the last few years to the closest number and try to bring it down. They can take a breather, give it a pause button, and the prime significance of macro stability, employment generation, enhancing growth should override the gross fiscal target. That's gross fiscal deficit target. That's the point I'm trying to make. The important point is there has to be macro stability. Now, how should they be going about? My thoughts are they have to take care of the rural sector and employment generation into the rural sector. So they have to go deep into the rural sector and see what type of employment opportunities can be created there. I have written, many others have written, what are the type of industry that can be raised, that can be encouraged. Village and cottage industry can be encouraged. MSMEs can be encouraged. India is such a beautiful country. When we go abroad and we go and look at their places, nothing compared to India. Maybe tourism industry in the rural areas needs to be encouraged. There can be religious tourism. There can be normal tourism. Water tourism can be encouraged. So rural areas need to be brought into focus. As far as employment generation is concerned, if we focus on the rural area and create employment, create these activities there, tourism as well as village and cottage industry, we will find that employment is already encouraged. We need a healthy financial sector. The commercial banks serve as a backbone there. The government has already announced that they are going to come in with recapitalization bonds. 88,000 crore has already been announced of the total plan of 2.1 lakh crore. My suggestion is in the budget, we should be very clear as to what are the conditionalities that will follow this recapitalization bonds. The prompt corrective action, what the Reserve Bank has been initiated. The government has come out with schemes in the past like Indradhanush. I think now is the time to earn the confidence, establish credibility of these schemes that the government announces and say how strict are they in monitoring it and how are they going to implement and ensure that good money is not thrown chasing bad money. That is one thing I think on recapitalizing financial sector they need to emphasize on. Demonetization, GST, has really helped the government in gaining confidence of a common man. Everybody understands now that the government is serious in eradicating corruption. The government now has to come out with a far more better plan on tax compliance. How the government will ensure that people comply more with the tax laws. I think that's another area where the government needs to really speak. As far as the youth are concerned, I think the startup and the MSMEs have to be encouraged. What is the government planning to do on the youth employment? Please remember, nearly 70 crore, 66% of the youth is waiting, 66% of the population is young, and they're waiting to come into the workforce. Every year we are adding 15 million people in the workforce. Every month more than 1 million people. So on one hand we have 60 to 70 crore people in the rural areas. On the other hand we have absolutely young population which we need to take care of. So the youth and the rural area, these should be our prime importance. The most important for me is encouraging female labor force participation. There have been numerous studies which have shown that if female labor force participation increases, our country's GDP will jump by 25%. That means if we are growing around 7%, we will start growing around 9%, just if we enhance the female labor force participation. How do we enhance female labor force participation? In addition to encouraging youth and the rural areas, I think the best way is give long tax holidays to women who enter the workforce. There are social norms in our country which don't allow women to enter the workforce, but if you allow huge tax concessions and tax holidays for female labor force participation, probably the sociological aspects will be then taken down and the economic aspects will play a more prominent role, overplay a role, and women will join the workforce. So I think the focus should be clear. We have to create employment, we have to go into the rural sector, we need to engage our youth, and we need to encourage women to join the labor force. Each one of them will go to increase the income of our country. So then let me conclude now. India is also already a fastest growing country in the world. I must add a rider here. We are growing around 7 to 8%. China grew for nearly 3 decades around 10%. Our own potential of growth is around 10%. Today we are the fastest growing economy of the world, not because we have exceeded China's 8 or 9 or 10%, but because China has slowed down. So though we continue to be the fastest growing country, given our demographic dividend, I think we need to take our potential to 9 to 10%. I think that's where we need to focus on. The schemes that have been announced by the government in the last 3 years, all of them are exceedingly good schemes, well thought through. The startup, the stand-up, the mudra, the need to encourage industrialization, all the schemes are extremely good. Even the pension schemes and social security schemes are very good. But now we need to start implementing them. And these schemes have to start showing results. So I would rather say in today's budget, there should be more of consolidation of the existing schemes, more of evaluation of the existing schemes. The focus should be just rural youth and women, and that is where the budget should spearhead and take us into a higher growth path. That's what I expect from the budget in the next few hours.